Okay, well, first of all, welcome and thank you to everybody. It's a really exciting session, this one for Steve and myself, as this is the launch of the brand Illumar, which is our data solution for the social housing sector. I'm delighted to welcome along Steve Aitken. Steve is the chair and founder of InSource, our partner in this venture. Steve's got over 20 years of developing technology and data solutions in a variety of different sectors, of which the main has been the healthcare sector alongside the NHS. So today's session, I'm going to just open up and outline the existing data landscape in housing. And then I'm going to take a look at the concept of how collaboration will be a key driver to solving some of the challenges that the sector faces. I'll then hand back over to Steve, and Steve will share his experiences in health, outline the solutions that they've developed in health and the progress that they've made there, and then look at the relevance of this to the housing sector. If you can move forward, Steve, please. So the first point that I wanted to make was, why did we come up with the concept of Illumar? Why have we looked to embark on this? Well, what we recognised was that the impact that data challenges were having on the sector was significant. If we take a look at some of our core principles, which are around, if we can help to solve the problem, then we can have a positive impact on the performance of your organisation, which in turn will enhance the homes that people live in and the communities that they live in. So this has real social and financial return for the sector as a whole. If you can move forward, please, Steve. So our journey actually began back in January 2019. And for some people, you'll be aware that our sister organisation, Procurement for Housing, has a governance structure led by an advisory board made up of different organisations from across the housing sector. As we were going through a business planning process, the advisory board were consistently outlining that data was a key challenge and something that was keeping boards awake at night. So what they asked us to do initially was to take a look at, well, what does the supply chain look like for data management? And how could we look at opportunities and solutions to support the social housing sector? So we embarked on a series of research across multiple different sectors. And what we identified was that in the health sector, albeit significantly greater in size and complexity, there were some real common themes that aligned to the housing sector. There was a small number of core operating systems in the health sector, and a plethora of different systems that were developed from that, where data was being transferred, manipulated, used, which was all resonated very clearly with the housing sector. And we identified an organisation in the health sector called InSource that had taken a very, very different approach, which Steve will outline shortly. And what we looked to do, therefore, was leverage that experience from health for the benefit of housing. If you could move forward, please, Steve. So one of the core principles that we wanted to take was that of collaboration. And what we recognised was that collaboration is the accelerant for change. And this is even more relevant when there's a common problem, which there is across the housing sector. If you can move forward, please, Steve. So what's happening today in the housing sector? Well, most organisations, most providers have a data challenge. Most of those data challenges are quite similar across housing organisations, regardless of scale and size. But what often happens is, because it's seen to be such a complex area within housing, they often resort to a technical-led bespoke solution. And typically options will include business workarounds such as spreadsheets, macros, manual manipulation and transfer of data between departments. bespoke integrators to try and link systems together and pass overnight processing and what have you of data between systems, or in some cases that build from the bottom up data warehouse projects, data lakes, data marts. This landscape's becoming increasingly common across housing. But what this has created is bespoke solutions, and these are highly inefficient when we take a sector approach to this. In addition to this, bespoke solutions often limit the opportunity for shared learning across the sector. You can move the slides forward, please, Steve. So where's this landscape got us then as a sector? Well, only in January 2020 did the regulator highlight that the integrity of data is called into question. Poor data accuracy will be reflected in judgments. So this is a massive potential financial and reputational risk for organisations in the sector. In addition to this, what we've got to recognise is the high rate of failure and the significant costs deployed in this existing methodology, as can be seen by some of the statistics on the slide. You can move forward, please, Steve. So all of this effort and all of the expense that the individual organisations are utilising leads to an unsatisfactory outcome. We actually have a systemic issue that wastes resources, creates the potential for a high failure environment in projects, and typically drives poor outcomes for organisations. If you can move forward, please, Steve. So, what if there was a different way of doing things? This is what Illumar aims to do. If we take a collaborative approach to the problem, to the common problem, we can change the outcome. We can reduce risk through a productized rather than bespoke solution. We can increase that time to value by offering a standardized deployment rather than building from scratch. And we can reduce costs by deploying a pre-built product. This enables organizations then to focus resources on value creation activities rather than trying to manage and manipulate poor data in the business. So on that note, I'm going to hand you across now to Steve, who's going to pick up, talk about his experiences in health, the solutions that he's developed, and then the relevance of this to the social housing sector. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lift the lid a little bit on what Steve's been talking about and just go through a little bit more detail what we've done with the NHS. Just very, very quickly, my name's Steve Aiken. I'm one of the founder directors of InSource. We've been working with healthcare for 20 years now, and probably 10 years exclusively. So we've learned a lot, and we've delivered a lot within the NHS. So just to put things into perspective, what is the NHS? Well, it's one of the world's largest employers with over 1.1 million staff and an annual budget in excess of £150 billion. And it's split into 4 territories: England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, of which there are over 230 provider trusts. And a provider trust is a hospital that provides services to you and I, and they span acute hospitals that provide surgery, as well as mental health and community services. And there's a whole range of other organisations within the NHS. But the key point here is that the NHS is actually, across these 230 provider trusts, a range of autonomous businesses that vary in size enormously, from those smaller ones with budgets of around 20 million up to the larger ones where the annual budget is in the region of 2 billion. Now, despite this enormity, 90% of hospital trusts fall into a mid-tier SME size of organisation. And as autonomous organisations, and the perception that they're all different and unique, every trust is trying to solve the problem of data independently. And because of the scale and complexity of managing such large volumes of complex, disparate data, only the very large businesses have the scale and resources to build their own bespoke solution. And as I said, with 90% of hospital trusts classified as mid-tier SME organisations, they are all failing to meet their data management requirements. But all hospitals have the same data requirements. In large, the smaller hospitals have the same data requirements as larger hospitals. The complexity is the same, it's only the data volumes that vary. And it's not that their requirements are any less. Therefore, in order for hospitals to be able to succeed in managing their data, they need to look at a more collaborative approach. And with each hospital going their own way, there's no standards on which to work with. And without these standards, there's no way to collaborate. And that's collaborate not just with software organizations like ourselves, but between themselves. So what I wanted to do is just to explain what are we talking about, when we talk about data management and what's needed. So if we look at a hospital and what the perceived software estate looks like, central to any hospital organization software estate is what is called the patient administration or the electronic patient record system. And typically, this is the view that that's all that's needed for a hospital to run effectively. In reality, the PAS EPR system only makes up a proportion of the systems that a hospital runs as its core operational and clinical applications. Additionally, there will be HR, finance, estates, and potentially other standalone clinical applications. A lot of hospitals will run a separate maternity system or an A&E system or a theatre system. So in reality, the number of core systems that a hospital runs can be anywhere between 15 and 50. Now, in addition to that, there is a plethora of other hospital operational and admin systems that exist. And these exist to augment and supplement the functionality that doesn't exist in these core applications. Now, within hospital systems, these can be up to 400 additional systems is not untypical. And therefore, for a hospital to run efficiently, the data from these core systems needs to be shared both between themselves and across the wider software estate. And it's difficult to do when there are no standards. Now, there's an awful lot of work going on within the health industry at the moment about integration of data between these core main clinical systems. However, this integration ecosystem is doing little or nothing to include the peripheral operational systems. So in order for organizations to share their data, there is a process where each software application has its own data connector and supporting database. And with each of these peripheral applications sourced from different suppliers or in the main in-house built, some of them are just processes, sometimes they're just a series of written down instructions. They are very different in terms of their standards. And to join these systems together, there is a massive undertaking to build and maintain custom data connectors to allow the transfer of data from the core systems to each of these applications. And each of these connectors is created to support each single application. And the result is a plethora of individual and siloed databases or data warehouses across all of these systems. And then when you look at the need to look at the interdependencies between these systems, for instance, how is my A&E activity, the load on my A&E activity and the utilization of my hospital theatre capacity impacting my ability to treat patients who are on waiting lists. And it's a very, very topical subject at the moment in the post or current COVID world that we live in, is there is a growing number of patients on hospital waiting lists. And there's a lot of interdependencies that affect your ability to address that effectively. And without having the data to be able to understand it, you're basically working blind. And in order, therefore, to tie together these disparate systems, there's the creation of more and more databases and more data systems. And that becomes a very, very costly and expensive exercise. The whole system requires a huge number of people to run, build, and operate these things on a day-to-day basis. And the bigger and more complex it becomes, the more and more people are required, and the ability to maintain it is increased exponentially. And this has greater consequences, going back to what Steve was saying. As a result of inadequate systems, the actual operational business processes themselves are severely compromised, resulting in even more layers of inefficiency. So what's the solution? How do we get around this? Well, if you are able to take all of that and create a single solution, a single productized solution that can deliver through economies of scale a lower cost solution than bespoke solutions, a productized solution that prepares and automates the preparation and generation of a unified data set that takes data from all of these core clinical systems, whoever the manufacturers are, and transitions, processes, and refines that data into this unified data set that can feed each one of these peripheral applications. A single unified data set is one single solution, will reduce much of this very, very expensive, manually intensive processes of manually handballing data around a system. And this would resolve the issue of these manually built bespoke connectors and standardize the approach to data acquisition. However, by doing that, you're only addressing part of the problem, because there's still all of these disparate applications that still require a huge level of manual intervention to keep them running. So there is a second component of the overall solution, and that is to productize, build a suite of integrated productized applications to replace the myriad of these in-house developed standalone solutions. And that was our challenge. That is where we took a different approach to health that everybody else was taking. And with that challenge in our sights and 150 man years of R&D and innovative and creative development, we've unlocked the code necessary to address that market at scale. Not only have we designed and built a data and applications platform, we've deployed it in multiple scenarios and subjected it to extensive long-term testing to prove its capability and scalability. In doing so, proven beyond question that we have a solution to solve this eternal issue in health. And this solution, this platform we've built, the data and solution platform, is called Health Data Enterprise. Health Data Enterprise has at its core is a modular data platform, a data infrastructure, a sophisticated data engine that completely automates the processing and preparation of data that resides in these core clinical systems, and delivers this unified data layer containing thousands of data fields. The data engine is highly configurable in order to meet the needs of every single trust's specific nuances and structure. This data set, the unified data layer, is identical in all implementations of Health Data Enterprise, and it is fully supported by a comprehensive data dictionary, complete with data provenance and lineage, enabling hospital organizations to have a single source of managed and trusted data to which these peripheral applications can connect. So as well as the data management platform, as I said earlier, there's also an applications platform. We've built a series of applications which we are constantly adding to. The open architecture of this platform also enables the building of applications by other organizations, and these can be third-party software organizations or then clients themselves. It's a true demonstration of the ability of a standard platform that allows for collaboration to take place. And the platform is designed to be dynamic, one which can continually expand and evolve way beyond where it is now, with phased implementations to achieve a strategic data platform that each trust needs. So that's what we've built. So let's look at, where's the value in that? So what's the demonstrable value? So what I wanted to do now was just focus on a very small project that we did with one of our clients, and the client is Royal Papworth. It's the UK's leading heart and lung hospital. It's world famous. It's a small organisation of 134 million turnover, and We talked earlier about managing patient lists and streamlining patient access to hospital. And Royal Papworth were running the process of managing patient access, their waiting lists, on an in-house developed system, which on the surface all looked okay. The reports came out in wonderful Technicolor, but below the surface is not quite the same story. It was dependent on individuals with no ability to validate the accuracy of the data, just-in-time report production, and it wasn't good enough for Royal Papworth, as the incumbent systems were not only compromising business processes and leading to inefficiencies, but that was leading to potential patient risk. So we deployed an application, one of the applications off our applications layer called Patient Pathway Plus, and it was an application for managing those waiting lists along with the appropriate data management components to support it. Part of the modular implementation of health data enterprise. And this has been a hugely successful project. It's been, you know, transformational for the way in which Royal Papworth are able to manage their waiting lists. But what this did is this incredibly successful project opened their eyes into other aspects of their data management dependent business processes. And they said to us, look, you know, this is really, really good. What we'd like to do now is we'd like to start to extend out the data management platform to cover other areas of inefficiency. And their next priority was to focus on their combined billing and production of their statutory CDS returns. The NHS provides, has to provide, each NHS has to provide monthly, weekly, quarterly, annually statutory returns, just like within housing. And the process that they had developed in-house to do this was incredibly complex and inefficient, and it consisted of no less than 25 separate and unique data processing systems, each based around Access databases and Excel spreadsheets. With each stage comprising of multiple manual processes highlighted in yellow, and the whole end-to-end process included over 400 manual steps as a result of poorly developed in-house systems. And again, at senior level, it was recognised where there was a huge waste of resources and huge costs being incurred. And that was taxpayers' money being spent on back office resources rather than on frontline services. So to solve their problem, we expanded the existing health data enterprise solution beyond Patient Pathway Plus with the appropriate additional data management modules to surface the additional data that they needed. And remember, this is a modular scalable solution, and we're implementing additional modules. We implemented a CDS Plus application alongside their Patient Pathway Plus application. And this expansion, this creation of greater capability replaced all of the 400 manual steps with a completely automated and integrated system. And this newly expanded platform has transformed the way in which this particular trust operate from both a patient access and billing perspective. And it's now providing them with this strategic platform on which to continue the strategy of automating more and more inefficient data management processes. And this is just one example. So in conclusion, we've learned that the NHS has one of the biggest data issues of any industry. And history has proven that developing homegrown bespoke data management systems just do not work. They does not deliver the value. And the only way it's going to be addressed is through highly configurable productized solutions built specifically for a market that will deliver the required value. And that facilitates this collaboration that Steve referred to early on in the presentation between software, the software industry as ourselves, and organizations between themselves. We've got, just as an aside, we've got clients now who are developing solutions collaboratively between themselves to address issues that are common to them, and it's this common platform that allows that to take place. And we have many success stories along the same lines, following the same thread. And the point here is standardization, productization, brings about the ability for collaboration. And I've just put this slide up again to reflect what Steve said at the beginning, because collaboration is key to the whole solution within healthcare that we've addressed. So what's this got to do with social housing? So if we just recap and use the statement here, is that solutions developed for the NHS will scale into social housing. So by recapping, this was the perceived hospital's software estate. In reality, it looked more like that, and the way the infrastructure support it looked like that. If we look at social housing, the perceived software housing, the social housing software estate is very, very similar to that within a hospital trust, except central to a housing organisation is the housing management system, the replacement or the alternative for the patient administration system, sitting alongside a number of other core applications such as repair and asset and HR and finance. And in order to support the requirements of a housing organisation, there is this evolving range of additional housing software systems and processes, operational systems, such as your performance risk and audit, job costing systems, your BI solutions, your statutory national local returns. All of these things have to be built as separate solutions. And in order to maintain and support that type of infrastructure, there is a growing people-based infrastructure that's disconnected, inefficient, and manually driven, and allowed to carry on as it is for each social housing organisation to build its own solution. We will find ourselves in a situation where each organisation is incurring huge costs and failing to meet their requirements. So, as Steve said, in addressing that, what we have done is we have taken the 150 man years of R&D that we have invested in health and developed a housing data enterprise solution for social housing. It's a managed data infrastructure, identical code in every instance, highly configurable and modular. It can take data from any source system. It produces identical UDL data structures, automated and scalable. Very, very similar, identical to what we've built for housing, for healthcare. It has an evolving applications layer that are highly configurable. It supports self-service BI, and it supports third-party applications, whether they're built in-house by the housing associations themselves or by third-party organisations. And again, a modular system that can evolve into a strategic enterprise solution with a phased implementation approach. And this is housing data enterprise. And because of the standards that we've built into it, it provides for what we keep referring to, this collaboration. And the value statements, we've repeated a number of times here, and that is what we are bringing to the market. We are very, very excited about Housing Data Enterprise, and this is the official soft launch of Housing Data Enterprise for the housing sector. And it's, as I said earlier, it's built on the experience and knowledge that we've gained in working the NHS for over 20 years. And Housing Data Enterprise comes with that 150 man years of R&D and development to bring this system to the housing sector. And with a number of clients already on board and more in the pipeline, as you can understand, both Steve and I are very, very excited about what this is going to do for the housing sector. So that's just a very, very quick run through for what we've done within health and what we're doing in terms of bringing all that knowledge and all that experience and all that capability to housing. So thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to sit and listen to Steve and I. And if there is any questions, we're 30 minutes in now, which I would absolutely bang on time here. If there are any questions, then we'll be more than happy to take those.
Thanks, Steve. That's a great insight into your experiences in health and the launch of the Illumar product. We've probably got about 5 or 10 minutes left. I've got lots of questions popping up on the screen, Steve, which I'll manage and direct. Hopefully get through as many of these as we possibly can. Just kicking off, there's a couple of technical questions, Steve. So I'll swerve those completely. And,
I'm quite happy to take those offline if necessary, Steve. More than happy to do that if we know questions.
Brilliant. I'll just point a couple of them in your direction first. The first question is, do your data centers use any Hawaii kit? So I think that's one we can easily address, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an easy question to answer. Is that the NHS has very, very strict and stringent data requirements, and that is that NHS data can only reside on servers or data centers that are on UK soil. So most solutions are housed in the individual trusts themselves, or they are housed in NHS approved data centers. So so we use the third-party data centers that are provided by organizations like Google and Microsoft. We don't manage or provide the hardware infrastructure. We just utilize what's been made available. And I suspect that no, they don't use any Huawei technology at all.
Okay, so I think that there's a follow-up question from that in terms of how green are your data centers, and I think that's a similar response to that in terms of that is very much subject to the individual organisation and their standards that they set for that housing data center. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're the providers of the software, not the hardware infrastructure on which it runs. That's run by the big organizations who have invested millions in that sort of technology. This is about the software, the enterprise data management software that runs the data for the trusts.
And then there's another question here that I'll probably just take in relation to BIM, building information modeling, is crucial to asset management. How do you integrate BIM and building management systems? If I can head this one up, and Steve, please jump in if there's any more information. We recognise that the golden thread of information is critical across from new builds, asset management, repairs and maintenance, and we firmly believe that the applications layer that we will develop on an ongoing basis will address this. So for us, your BIM system is merely a further data source. So we will develop the UDL to accept those additional data sources and effectively present that information in the UDL available for you as in how the organisation wishes to use that data subsequently. Then is that right, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Is that with the launch of Housing Data Enterprise, we're bringing in data from a number of data sources to address some initial issues, and the system will develop over time when we collaborate and work with our clients on what's important to them. And as we do that, we will bring in more and more data sources including BIM, and that will spur more and more applications that will sit on the applications layer. So this is an evolving strategic platform that we're building in collaboration with our clients.
Another question in terms of, do you anticipate jobs growth in your operations in the short term future? Well, the answer to that is yes. We do anticipate we've created a joint venture organisation which will look to be a sustainable business and drive jobs growth through the operation. There is a follow-up question, Steve, to the sustainability question. I'm just going to read it out.
Okay.
Doesn't the NHS have a mandate for sustainability? It can't wring its hands of your third-party clients if their hardware operations are not environmentally responsible. It's your responsibility. You should use uptime tier 3 data centers. I think that's already been addressed in terms of the standards set for the data centers will be the standards that the client sets in that. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's again, just going over that again, is the data centers are not where we are. The data centers are defined by the Department of Health, and all we do is use the data centers as the hosting mechanism for our solutions.
Just another question that's come through, Steve. In terms of COVID-19, you touched on that in your presentation. How effective has the solution been in supporting organisations during COVID?
Well, that's really interesting, actually, because when you look at Health Data Enterprise, it's a centralised digital hub for all of a trust's data, and therefore it's largely server-based, all held centrally. And what that has been very, very useful doing is enabling hospital organisations to work remotely when people have had to work from home and not being able to go into the hospital. Now, when you look at organisations that have systems built on Excel spreadsheets, manual processes, they just haven't been able to function as well as they should have been able to, because data governance rules doesn't allow you to email Excel spreadsheets to somebody's home computer, and the disparate nature of COVID working has just caused a lot of health organisations basically to lose control of their data. So one of the issues that's come out of this post-COVID scenario is that very, very few organisations have an accurate view of how many patients are waiting for procedures within a hospital. They have a list, but they cannot verify it, because things have just been, everyone's run to the other end of the football pitch of treating the COVID patients. The back office systems in a lot of these homegrown system derived organisations have just failed to deliver. The scale of what it is, nobody really knows, but there will be big repercussions to come out of this over the next few months. And there is a massive amount of impetus by the NHS and a lot of organisations, from the big massive consultancy organisations through to the smaller businesses, to help the NHS overcome what is an unknown but very, very dangerous situation of not knowing the accuracy of their data and how many patients they need to be treating.
Brilliant, thank you. Just one other question here as well is in terms of the shared learning that we talked about as part of the collaboration process. How do you deal with that in health to drive collaboration?
Well, what we've done is we've created a number of user groups So we have user groups for various elements of the housing, of the health data enterprise solution. So we were talking about our application Patient Pathway Plus, which manages patients' access into a hospital. We have a user group that's chaired by members of one of our clients, which is Salford Royal, from Salford Royal Hospital, and we meet on a regular basis to help define what the next level of development is. And these things are a journey, because you develop components of the solution based on what your clients want, and once we've developed that and they've rolled it out and they've changed the way in which they operate, they're then able to look at the next piece of activity that they want to address in order to streamline and improve. So collaboration with our clients. And we're also collaborating very, very closely with a number of supplier organisations that supply single point solutions to the NHS by integrating their solutions into our data platform to make the whole thing compatible. So you have this evolving ecosystem of data management and data applications. So it's through collaboration, through user groups, and collaboration with supplier organisations.
Brilliant, thanks. I've got on here, not really a question, but there's some ongoing commentary from DM Cox around encrypted data, risk that we use Hawaii kits, NHS data then could be hacked. We hear the Russians attempted to hack Oxford University's COVID vaccine. Is that true? To be fair, I don't know if that's true. I'm in the same position as you guys in terms of seeing that in the news, and maybe we can pick this up after the session. There seems to be some concern there, so that's possibly, if DM Cox, you want to contact us after the session, then that'll be absolutely fine. So I think we're just about on the edge of time there. So I'd like to thank Steve. It's a new virtual situation for presentations for both of us here today. We normally end with a thank you to the speakers in the traditional way. I'm not sure how you do that virtually. Thank you so much for all the questions that have come through and attending the session. If you want any more information on this, you can visit the website at illumar.co.uk or drop me a personal note on this matter. Happy to take any queries or questions moving forwards. So Steve, thank you so much, and thank you to everybody for attending.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks for chairing it, Steve. Really enjoyable.
Thanks guys.